This story takes place late at night, in the midst of an abandoned forest, where right now Lord of Sea is running around with sword in hand and ordering the Master of Darkness to immediately release the guy who a few minutes earlier wanted to destroy him. He fell to the ground almost immediately and was very shocked by this turn of events. He did not understand why he was being defended by someone he and his partner had wanted to destroy a few minutes before. There was surprise and fear on his face at the same time. And so, the mage's arm was successfully severed and fell to the ground after a sharp swing of the weapon. And the black mage instantly grabbed his sleeve and looked at his arm, which Hai Ming sharply cut with his sword and threw into the pit. The smile disappeared abruptly from his face, and he still addressed the guy by name, with a very unhappy tone. Then he started yelling at him, which frightened the boy a little, and put the mage in a really aggressive state that he had never been in before. These cries were also heard by Cindy and Victor, who also continued their hunt for a new member of the academy, to get back at him for being stronger than they had expected. She immediately told her boyfriend that they were already here, whereupon he immediately understood her and activated one of his superpowers, which began to move them very quickly to the right place. And so, while they were moving on the spirit, O.F. Thunder, the girl remembered that based on her instructions, Leo and the others should have retreated. But why does she have a bad feeling about this? She immediately thought of them and really hoped that the two guys hadn't dared to do anything unnecessary. Well, the dialogue between the Black Mage and the Watermaster continued. Not bad. Not only did you escape being entranced by his black mist, he also managed to hurt him during the chaos. The guy at this point continued to stand and listen to what he was being told, after which the magician added that it seems like he is quite the annoying character. According to their plans, he is supposed to let him live for a bit longer. His arm began to glow, then flew back to him and began to regenerate back to his body. The magician still couldn't calm down, although his face was already smiling again, so he just decided to continue his conversation with the guy. But from what I see, letting you do whatever you want will almost likely bring about bigger trouble. So he will be making his own decision this time. After that, he pointed his finger at the guy and said that he would destroy him first. But he didn't care. He saw the seal on his hand, exactly the same one that was in the library. Which is why he came to the academy, because he wanted to learn the secret of black magic. After that, there was absolutely no more doubt in his mind that all this was true. So without thinking long, he immediately asked the magician if he was really one of the Sealshin's men. They continued to stand in front of each other and talk, but the question really surprised the mage, because he couldn't assume that the boy already knew about them. The existence of the seal is considered one of the mainland's secrets. It has impressive strength, knows about the existence of the seal yet entered the academy under the guise of being a commoner. The black magician is getting more and more curious about Boy. He kept smiling as he corrected his hand and added that, putting these aside, his current question is those two clearly wanted to hurt him. So why is he helping them? A really logical question, one that you and I have also been asking. But Hai Ming decided to respond a little aggressively. He doesn't think this has anything to do with him. After which he looked in the direction of his abusers, where they were trying to help each other, and added that, since those two most likely have a connection with the Relic of Flame. Sieg looked at his master, who was lying with his eyes closed and writhing in pain. He really wanted to help him out of this state. His eyes lit up red. He didn't understand what happened with that lad. Just now they were planning on attacking after landing, but he suddenly rushed out. Are not these two accomplices? Unless Cindy Sandal got her information wrong. He remembered how a little earlier they were standing by the window at the academy, listening to instructions from Cindy and clarifying whether they really only needed to lure out that newcomer's accomplice before retreating. But this made Leo a little angry. He didn't understand why he had to do such an easy job. Let them just send someone else. Cindy continued to look at them incredulously. whereupon Leo left and called siege with him on this assignment. But the girl continued to sit in her chair and asked her assistant to stay for a second, because there is something she wants to ask of him. Can he let her talk with it? The great one that shares a body with him, the black flame dragon, Ragnall. It was the same horrible snake that now looked like a demon, but it was the one that was following the academy participants and was also in the library. Whatever, according to his contract with Cindy Sandal, all he needs to do is make sure that they are safe. After this, he just needs to wait for that woman to arrive. But Haiming Oceanus, why does he feel that he is meeting him before? Meanwhile, their confrontation and conversation continued. The mage was already wondering if the boy had anything to do with him. He also complimented him on how brave he sounded right now. But Haiming didn't care about this at all. He was cold-blooded and continued to stand with his sword in hand, saying, "Instead, I'd like to understand why you guys have your eyes on those two? And what does the seal hope to achieve by infiltrating this academy?" The answer came immediately. "I can answer some of your questions, but that is only if you survive this." After that, dark force projectiles flew at the boy, sent to destroy him. It was the puppet's curse. Haiming was very surprised by this and instantly jumped aside to escape. But the dark forces continued to attack him and chased him wherever he ran. So he turned around sharply and with all his might slashed this curse with his sword. But it turned sideways and surprised the boy very much. For had it turned away before it was hit? There was almost no time to think. For as soon as the boy looked back, he immediately saw the attack continuing in his direction. He was a little shocked, because those black threads seemed to be able to predict his attacks. Does it have magic that can predict his future? No, that is not it. They seemed to be unable to predict where he landed, or else they would have used that information to attack him first, instead of just blocking his attacks. What in the world are those black threads? He took another look at his opponent and still couldn't figure out if he was really controlling it from afar. That cannot be right. There is no sign of him controlling anything, and there are not any traces of magic being used. The smile on his opponent's face did not disappear. He was really very funny to watch, so he decided to turn to him and say, "Ignorant boy, are you trying to dodge those threads? You really think you can dodge? As long as you have a sliver of emotion that affects you, you will never be able to escape them. There is joy, sadness, rage, and despair. Be it the gentlest of the most violent. All emotions are deeply woven into everyone's life and control the actions of every human. These threads are invisible to regular humans. They are only visible to me, and by attacking a little magic, I can actually control them." He continued to smile and added that he also saw his thread when he sliced off his arm. At that time, he took the opportunity to affix a couple of guiding threads to his right hand. Immediately, a model of a guy running with a sword appeared in front of him. The magic of the guiding threads is faint and unstable. With the slightest movement, it will cause the threads to sway significantly, resulting in what appears to be the threads actually dodging an attack. At this point, Haiming will already be trapped, and their magic will slowly attract other threads, increasing their numbers, until he finally became his very own controllable puppet. The angry laughter from his opponent continued to intensify, for his plan was almost perfect, and it was only a matter of time before Haiming would lose. But the guy didn't give up, and while listening to all this, he continued to fight, waving his sword. He also felt a little strange hearing this, so he decided to respond as well, again. "I'm afraid the battle will never end if this continues." So she continued to run, adding that if he couldn't defeat this magic, he would simply try to ignore it, and charge the caster instead. So he continued to swing his sword and run toward his opponent. And now he was getting as close to him as possible, and was ready to strike. But the mage just kept smiling at that moment, saying that it was a futile struggle. Immediately after that, those black magical streaks started coming out of the ground again, protecting the mage and stopping the guy's attack. Especially in the sky, there was a bright white flash that made the guy fly back a few meters. He caught his sword on the ground and stopped crouching on his knee. He was a little tired from such a battle and was surprised that he couldn't get any closer to him. He needs to deal with these black threads first. He got really scared at one point, because right now the movements of those black threads seemed weird. When the threads curved suddenly, it was at the exact moment his arm rebounded from the attack. Could it be that they are following the movement of his arm? Or more accurately, his right hand? Because all his movements were easily anticipated and counterattacked. He continued to sit, holding his sword and analyzing the situation. For the thought that his attacks had not yet been stopped did not leave his mind. At that moment, his opponent continued to watch, and was surprised at how he was able to block it. Impressive response. There is no choice. He can only take a gamble, and use his left hand instead. So he grabbed his sword in his left hand and instantly threw himself into battle, cutting the magical threads completely. Bingo, you got it right. The guy was very surprised at this answer and a little surprised at what he got. But the magician decided not to stand by, so he immediately jumped on him with his magic scythe, adding that it would be a mistake if he forgot about it. He was still very funny and continued his attempts to hit the guy. But suddenly a yellow lightning bolt appeared, and a second later a very strong kick came to the monster's head, which he obviously could not have expected. It hit him right in the eye, which hurt the mage badly and made him fly back several meters. Cindy Sandal came to the rescue, stating that that was her line, and she has been searching for him for a long time now. The magician lost his balance a little from such a blow and tried to get to his feet. He was very surprised why the girl is here right now. She was unperturbed and decided to tell him herself, adding that for a long time no one saw. Sixth puppet. She didn't expect to find him here. She still remembered his debt from stealing the secret of the sea last time. After these words, absolutely everything turned over in the boy's head. He couldn't believe what he had just heard. Was it really the secret of the sea? But how does she know about that? Is the seal used to suppress the demons. No wonder he wasn't able to find her in the library. It had already been taken? The girl turned in his direction and said that Siege has already briefed her on what just happened. For helping her friend when he was in need, she expresses her thanks. But until my suspicions of you have been thoroughly eliminated, she will still be wary of him. She pointed in the direction of the dark wizard and said, although for now, the most dangerous person here is him. Right now he seemed to be getting ready to get his revenge on both of them as soon as possible. One of the seal's most troublesome men, the sixth puppet. Meanwhile, some very strange rustling of leaves and equally strange noises were heard in the trees. It turned out that that was where his assistant had fallen asleep, lowering her arm and mouthing the phrase in her sleep that Hai Ming doesn't step on her butt. The story of that very seal reappeared. It has been hundreds of years since the demons were last suppressed. Because the demons couldn't be purged completely, they were sealed away. The seal was created with 7 sacred objects imbued with the power of divine spirits. These 7 catalysts were kept safely in the hands of the 7 divine spirits of that time. But with the passage of time and the succession of divine spirits, the whereabouts of these catalysts were lost. And then a black demon appeared around this seal, and that was until recently, when the news of the catalysts being seen at the Aska Academy began to spread through each and every major relic. And in truth, the previous Lord of the Sea had felt the seal, which suppressed the demons, loosening. The reason I came here was to find out the reason for the seal becoming loose, and to discover the rumored whereabouts of the catalysts. And during this search, Exier felt irregular fluctuations of magic near the library several times. We searched there for the reason, but yet discovered nothing. But from their previous conversation, Hai Ming learned the secret of the sea catalyst was stolen by the 6th puppet. So even if we defeat the 6th puppet, that doesn't mean the secret of the sea will return to our hands. So, first he needs to pry out the information of its whereabouts. But he was a little frustrated, because he knew that to do it with his current strength, the puppet's technique killing strike. As soon as he thought about it, a black mage hit him and Cindy Sandal appeared, shouting and ordering the boy to dodge the blow immediately. He got very nervous and scared, because he realized he couldn't dodge it in time. That's why Cindy and Victor came to his aid, using the Curse of Thunder and Shield of Lightning. Thanks to this, they created a protective field that reflected the mage's blow and protected Ming and their whole team. It was a very tense situation, so Cindy tried to take matters into her own hands and told the guy to listen to her closely. She will only say this once. He was tense and ready, so she continued. Even if we teamed up to attack him, it will be difficult to win. We need to go about this another way. Do you see that bluish-black rock over here? The guy looked to the side and saw it. The rock that fell alongside the puppet? That is called a boundary stone. It is something that is used to create a territory of your own. She also explained that when traversing across Askar Academy, you will see the academy is protected by a strong enchantment. It is cast by the school's principal, and is one of the ways the academy defends itself against outsiders. When one is inside this enchantment, unacknowledged magic will be forcefully suppressed, while acknowledged magic from the ocean, thunder, earth, hurricane, flame, and forest departments will be allowed. But by using a boundary stone, you can escape the limitations imposed by the original enchantment by forcefully creating a new territory within the old. Now we see the difference between boundary stone and someone else's enchantment. Cindy was also a little tense, and added that by being in the 6th puppete's territory, their chance of success is basically 0, which is why they have to destroy that boundary stone in order to use the power of the principal's enchantment to suppress him. Ming understood and decided to ask, "So, you want me to destroy that stone?" "No, I will do it by myself." This answer really surprised the guy, because he has more experience than she when it comes to destroying boundary stones. So she will have to attack the puppet instead. Cooperation? Maybe she could try it out. But that guy's black threads keep interfering with his attacks. It makes it hard for me to get close to him. You don't have to worry about that. Just concentrate on attacking the 6th puppet. I will deal with those black threads. Cindy looked at him again and told him to remember that he would only have 10 seconds. About 10 seconds after my signal, those black threads will start interfering and attacking you again, which is why you must attack the puppet within those 10 seconds. Do you understand? She continued to hold the line of defense and was ready to go into battle. But Ming decided to clarify the plan one more time. Only 10 seconds? I've only fought with the black threads before, so if I were to actually get to the person himself, I don't know if I will succeed, Cindy replied. When we were fighting each other before, I realized that you are much better at hand-to-hand combat. But the puppet relies on his black threads to wear the other person down before finally reaping their lives. Which means it is very likely the bastard isn't good at hand-to-hand combat. So you better win this for me. Ming was very surprised by this, but he closed his eyes and agreed. It seems there isn't any other way. I understand. Let's go with your plan. Cindy was also excited and ready to go on. Then, move now. She let the guy out of her defenses and began to run the other way just as sharply, sticking to the plan. The black mage was very surprised that they decided to attack him separately. It's but a futile effort. When Cindy Sandal got close, I applied guiding threads onto her. In the meantime, all those threads flew in the direction of the guy who also noticed it. Meanwhile, Cindy shouted and immediately ordered Victor and Siege to act now. Victor sat down in the forest and said he was fully prepared and understood the task, after which he immediately began to activate the lightning boundary. Sieg simultaneously with him said that thou hast made me wait for quite a long time, and also activated the flame boundary. A hologram formed near them, which seemed to complement the two powers. The lightning and flame enchantment has been formed. Immediately afterwards, there was a large and powerful explosion that formed practically behind the black magician's back. He was very surprised, and the smile never disappeared from his face. He realized that it was enhancement magic from the Thunder Department and restraining magic from the Flame Department? Are they planning on using these enchantments to limit my movements? That is not quite right. He seems to be missing something. At this point, the guy was already near his point and was very surprised at the fact that they actually missed. How did she do it? At that moment, Cindy had already approached the stone and was standing in front of it. The reason we aren't able to dodge the puppet's attacks is because of the attached magical threads. Those threads may be weak, but they are extremely hard to remove. Currently, we don't have the ability to personally remove them, so we will just have to use another method. When an enchantment is activated on a major scale, massive waves of magic are created. And when two enchantments of different strengths are activated simultaneously, the two sets of magical waves end up opposing each other, which causes the magic as a whole to be disturbed. This disturbance will impact the magical threads, causing them to move about wildly without any order, thus missing their target. But the disruption only lasts for 10 seconds. Then the surrounding magic stabilizes, and the threads return to normal. So, there is only one chance. She stood on the boundary stone and was ready to act, which the black mage saw immediately and was perplexed. So your goal was the boundary stone all along? Cindy Sandal, how could I let you succeed? This ends here. So he pointed black threads at her at once. But it was too late. Siege activated the curse of flame again. Flame-tide disturbance. There was an explosion and the magician found himself in a small trap. He did not understand what was happening and was a little unfocused, trying to get out of here. Meanwhile, Leo woke up and helped him and said, "Don't underestimate this young master." His appearance came as a great surprise to his partner. Damn puppet. The team thanked him for his good work, and meanwhile, thunder and lightning began to appear in the sky. Seconds later, the universe's destructive thunder activated, striking the rock with its lightning as hard as it could, destroying it to pieces. The sight was very terrifying, and the guys put all their energy into seeing it through. This surprised the black magician, and he was already very frightened, because he did not even understand what these vibrations are now. Some kind of archway appeared, very similar to the one that used to be in the academy. And in his office sat the same grandfather who controlled the working processes of the academy. He was a little tired and excited, because he realized that the reclamation had begun. The black mage no longer knew what to do, and now he was already trapped, after which Cindy Sandal shouted sharply and ordered Hyming Oceanus to act right now. Immediately, there was water, a lot of water, which the master began to summon in order to finish off this monster. O spirit who dwells in the sea, please awaken from your slumber within the deep crevices. In the name of the Lord of the Sea, I command you, appear before me. It was obvious that the guy was as serious as possible, so he continued his ritual. His reason for interfering with the seal is as clear as day. It's also very likely the reason the seal became loose. So as long as I can get the catalyst back from the puppet, the task I came to ask our academy for can basically be considered complete. So, Hyming Oceanus, do it now. I can't afford to lose this battle. So immediately, without wasting a second of precious time, he rushed into action. The black mage was already ready for this and just waited for the guy, adding all you did was stop me from using my guiding lines. He was very funny again, but the forces of the water were already very close and completely countered the black threads, which was very exciting. So fast! Is it because the lightning enchantment boosted his speed? And while he was thinking, Hyming was already beside him and delivered his blow, which crushed the black mage and caused him tangible damage. There was also a flame of fire that appeared next to them. Was it a flame illusion? Was it from the flame enchantment just now? While the mage continued to analyze what was happening, Hai Ming threw himself at him as hard as he could to strike a final blow. He knew that right now was his chance. The best moment could not think of. The magician also stood perplexed and waiting, and then, a second later, there was a very strong explosion, the wave of which blew several kilometers away. Cindy was very excited. She couldn't believe it. Did it really work out? But when she looked at the center where the fight had just taken place, she was very frightened and could not believe it. She didn't want to imagine such an outcome at all. Hai Ming right now is using and throwing absolutely all his forces in order to destroy the black mage, which still continue to be guarded by the same black threads. The boundary stone has been destroyed, so why isn't he being suppressed by the principal's enchantment? How can he still be so strong? After reading the boy's thoughts, the black wizard decided to address him by name again, adding, "I'll have to hand it to you. For you to get to this point is something that's very praiseworthy. Your planning and cooperation were good, but it is a pity you're still so new to all of this." This phrase really surprised the guy, because he certainly could not expect this. So the magician had to ask, "Why were you all so sure there was only one boundary stone?" This question frightened the boy very much and made him nervous. Now he did not know what to do. Then the magician continued to laugh and continued, "Just so you know, my mask is also a boundary stone. And why don't you take a closer look at your surroundings?" The guy was frightened and shocked, so he tried to jump back, because while he was being distracted, the black threads were getting closer and closer to him, and had already begun to wrap their arms around him. Hai Ming didn't know what he should do now, so he decided to talk to his opponent. These black threads. When did they get all over me? They've got a strong grip around my legs. I can't move them even a little bit. Did you seriously believe that an enchantment like that could trap me? Before, I'd already set up the hidden swamp territory and even applied illusion magic around it. All I was doing was waiting for you to take the bait. The guy was already very much consumed by darkness, and the magician also decided to talk a little more about Cindy Sandal. Just give up on the thought that she'll come to your aid. With the illusion magic still in effect, she won't be able to see what's really happening here. The smile did not disappear from his face. He was really very funny, so he looked at the guy and said, "So, may you sleep forever in this hidden swamp territory. Hai Ming Oceanus." A white flash suddenly appeared in the forest and flew very quickly in the direction of the battle, where the black threads had already almost completely engulfed the guy. It was his assistant who happened to be here and was observing the situation. She smiled a little, for she certainly had some plan. "Long time no see, Quimper." There was a look of surprise in the magician's eyes. "Are you?" In front of him appeared the memory of that very sweet girl from which a second later formed another very strong white lightning strike that was visible and audible throughout the forest and beyond. "Why are you here? Do we really have to follow the seal's instructions?" "Principal, that might put our students in harm's way." The black magician went to the office of the white grandfather, who was the most important person in charge of all the processes. He answered him, "And if there's a chance, pass this on to that child called Hai Ming," and handed him the stone. The magician was very surprised, for should he really pass on the secret of the sea? This was supposed to be under his protection. He came here in search of it, so all we are doing is returning it to its rightful owner. And I would also like to confirm something, which is why I'll be depending on you, Teacher Quimper. Immediately afterwards, Hai Ming was able to open his eyes and saw that the trap he was trapped in began to dissolve on its own, which really surprised the guy. Suddenly, after a small sound of falling, the black magician walked up to the guy and addressed him by name again and said, "I'll let you off this time, but we'll meet again soon," and then he vanished in an instant, leaving only the cloak and the remains of his mask behind him. Hai Ming was very surprised by this turn of events, because he absolutely did not expect his opponent to just disappear. Just now, when he was trapped. He really wanted to find out what had really just happened. Then Grandpa appears again and continues to ponder that shining light that appeared in the enchantment moments ago. It seems that boy really is the person I've been waiting for all these years. Then she must be by his side right now. The leader who commanded the mission to seal the demons, the Saintess of Light, XELs. Numerous rustles again took place in the woods. They were watched very closely by the guy in the black cloak, who couldn't believe it. How useless to think he'd fail like this. I really wanted to see if that old man would come down and fight in the battle himself. But that annoying smell which just suddenly appeared. Then he went to his foreman and said, "It seems we didn't waste our time coming here after all.